Hello, everyone. I am Claudio Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast, and my guest today is Rahelio. Over the years, Rahelio has combined wisdom teachings from Eastern yogic traditions, Taoist wisdom, Christian mysticism, and Native American shamanism. He was especially drawn to the teachings of Toltec wisdom that has come out of Mexico and to the practice of Kriya Yoga through Babaji's lineage. Rahelio arrived in Sedona 35 years ago during the Harmonic Convergence gatherings. Soon after, he created his own company, Sedona Nature Excursions, with his specialty, mystic tours. Rahelio, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know, I listened to several of your interviews in the past, and I'll do my best to avoid questions that you've been asked already. So I would like to start with your time in Maui, Hawaii, in the early 80s. At that time, you pursued spiritual and mystical studies. So if we can go deeper into what these studies were and how they were transform your spiritual path.
Well, I think the number one thing that inspired me was the study of astrology. Astrology was, there's a very much of an esoteric side to it. And back at that time, I was just turned 21, 22. I dropped out of college. And when I left California, the week before I left, I met a Native American elder named Rolling Thunder. And he had invited me to come to train with him, but I'd already had my ticket to go to Maui. So I found myself, had my boat on, my car on the boat, and everything was ready to go. So here I ended up on Maui. And I had been introduced to astrology, but I had been very reluctant because it seemed too complicated. I had been studying things like numerology and tarot and some of what they call the secret doctrine, Madame Blavatsky, things like this. And I was introduced to the I Ching. So when I got to Hawaii, I thought I will either study the I Ching, Chinese wisdom, or I'll study astrology. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, to really study the I Ching, I need a Chinese elder to teach me, to really give me the insight of how that system works. And so I moved out to a place called Kipahulu, out past the 7 sacred pools on Maui, past Hana. And I was living out there, and I first moved in there, and the place I moved there was, I looked around, I found a trunk full of astrology books. There was no electricity, I had no running water inside. Took my shower outside on the pump. It was really, off-grid kind of living. And all I had to do was read astrology. So I got obsessed with it, and I was studying just obsessively, because once I began to use my own chart as a practice, using my chart to investigate the techniques, I saw right away that it was really, really quite amazing. It really astounded me what I could see in it. And I didn't want anybody to tell me who am I, because I'm not looking for anybody outside to tell me who that was. I want to know, how does this work? How do we know this? How does it's a quantum physics of the psyche, like astrology. And so I was especially inspired by a man named Dave Rujar, who was like a great genius, and he was integrating esoteric wisdom from, well, again, Madame Blavatsky and Alice Bailey and these Rosicrucian teachings, and he was bringing in all this Western philosophies, and he talked. But Dave Rujar was quite the Renaissance man, quite the genius. So I stepped it on his shoulders.
Yeah. So again, it's not unusual for someone with your ancestry to look into astrology, because a lot of Native American tribes were familiar with the movements of stars and equinoxes and solstices, and you just kind of follow naturally deeper into this path because it was your way of knowing yourself and knowing the universe. Is that correct?
Exactly. A lot of it, archaeoastronomy, the sacred lineups with the star risings, the planetary cycles. I Yeah, that was quite the journey for me, especially to bring it into context with the Earth itself and how the risings of planets and planets at the high point of the sky and how that affects travel and relocation. So I was fortunate when I was on Maui to meet an elder named Sun Bear. He had just written a book called Medicinal Astrology. So I started asking questions. I kept asking questions. He goes like, "Hey, read my book and read my book. It's in my book. Read my book." So I look at the book and I said, "This is the same as the Western astrology, the medicine wheel and the astrology wheel." Especially, I love the idea of mapping the chart on the world itself, the Earth being the chart, and then being in Hawaii and coming to Sedona. It was like learning about the Earth as a living being, learning about the sacred places, learning about the energy grids and sacred geometry, and all these kind of things were really. I was just really inspired. So I had like 10 years where I was obsessed studying, and then I got to Sedona. I was 31 years old, and I stepped right into being a vortex tour guide, and I finally got a chance to express myself. A lot of the ideas I had back in the days, especially before I went to Hawaii, a lot of people weren't ready to hear what I had to talk about because I had a number of mystical experiences, and I got jolted a little bit. I saw both the light and the shadow, so it was a reality check for me. And so talking to people is like it's not easy to talk to people because they have their own belief systems and their own limited understanding of their own conditions. But my mind had been expanded through my experiences, so I coming to Sedona gave me a chance to fully begin to speak out my truth and begin to feel like what it was, what I had to share, claim my voice, and begin to step into unfolding my shamanic path.
Yes, and we'll come to Sedona for sure, but I would like to stay a little bit longer on Maui. Have you had the chance to meet with a real local kahuna, a real elder, or the medicine man, which imparted any wisdom with you?
I did have a chance. I met kahuna from Oahu who was visiting, so I went and sat with him. He had group gatherings, and what he was talking about was at that time, most of the people in spiritual community on Maui, they were doing yoga traditions, and a lot of the Om. So he was teaching the importance of using sound vibrations, teaching the vowels, and toning with vowels, and he taught some energetic movements in Hawaiian kahuna qigong, moving to gather the sun energies and gathering into your body into your point below your navel. So his teachings were like that. It was interesting, and I didn't sit with a lot of native elders over there. I didn't at that time. I didn't really know much. This is back in the 79 to 85. But I did read a book by Max Freedom Long, and I saw his teaching the kahuna that he had shared with teachings with him, and I saw a lot some of the basic premises of their teachings, and I recognized later how this ties into shamanic wisdom from other traditions.
Yes, thank you. And you also had a UFO encounter at that time as well. How did you perceive that encounter? Was that transformational in any way, or you were kind of okay? Yeah, I can check this one on my list as well.
Well, at that time, UFO phenomena was not on my radar. I was not like thinking about UFOs. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I was studying everything else but that. And I met a guy one day, and he had a T-shirt on, little UFOs, saucers, and it said, the UFOs are real, but the government's lying. So I asked him, what's that all about? And he said that he had been being taken up on a ship at nighttime in his dreams, being taught, and other people were being taken up and being taught. And so I was open to the possibility because of my own experiences. I was open to the fact that maybe his was valid. But that whole week I was debating in my own mind, was he just dreaming, or was he being taken out on his astral body and having this training? So I debated that for about a week. And in my life, especially when I've been in very magical phases of my life, every 7-day period, I'd have mystical experiences. So 7 days later, I'm visiting some friends, and visiting these friends, they like smoke Maui Wowie. And that's what this, they call that Pakalilo, very strong herb. And I'm really, really sensitive, so I don't smoke that stuff very often. But when I do, it blows my crown chakra off. And it opens me up to the cause. It makes me have to turn to my heart and start praying to Great Spirit to help me lift me up and feel my connection to the source. So it's been a really powerful medicine for me like that. And so I needed to go outside. So I just need to get out. I feel claustrophobic in this house, and I want to go outside. It was so pitch black out there. There's no moon, and I was kind of stumbling along trying to find my way away from the house. And I got under the brilliant night sky. The stars were just incredible Hawaii night sky. And all of a sudden, a UFO came right down over my head, maybe about 40 yards over my head. And this UFO was bright like a lightning bolt, and it was hovering over me, humming a high pitch, at a much higher frequency. And it was kind of shimmering, and like a mirage, it was flashing over me. And my rational mind was like, what is this? It's not a plane. There's a long wing like a plane, but there's no nose or tail. And planes don't hover. Planes don't sound like that. It's not a helicopter, because helicopters have a propeller going boom, 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 boom. It is not a helicopter. And then the porch light came on from the house, and my friends came out, said, Rahelio, it's a UFO. And I'm laughing to myself because I knew it was a UFO, but my rational mind would not go there. My rational mind trying to be rational. So I had a number of experiences with my rational mind where I got a good laugh, because mystics will say that the rational mind is the slayer of that which is real. Because when you start trying to rationalize things, it pulls you into that left brain. That's the right side of our consciousness, the left brain. And when you're in a mystical, you're in the right brain or left side. So your dream side links you to the higher mind. And so the rational mind cannot contain the dream mind. That's why you can have a very, very powerful, vivid dream or vivid mystical experience, and then can't recall it. It's like, where did it go? I can't remember. It was so crystal clear. And so this is the rational mind. It was a great teaching for me. So all through my life, I've had these mystical experiences that gave me teachings that I verified with other teachers. I think I'd read a book about, say, a yogi would say some things, or a shaman would say some things. And, who I really loved a lot of writings of was Carlos Castaneda. And The Power of Silence was a great book. And I began to look at that and say, okay, I know these experiences. I've seen these things. So it was giving me a validation, because back at the time, I didn't really know anybody I could really talk to that really knew anything of depth. And I did go to the Big Island. I met the renowned Nechung Rinpoche. Nechung Rinpoche was a Buddha incarnated, Tibetan Buddhist, and he had a temple there. And my girlfriend at the time, she told me she had been there with him. He turned into a golden ball of light in front of her. So he was a very transcendental mystic. And so when I went there, he looked at me and he looked into me, and he didn't speak English, but his translator said that he told me through her. First, I asked him if he was a Buddha, and he said yes. And I asked him any advice. He said that for me, that I was not to follow him, that I was not his teacher, that I had a teacher, that I was to walk my own path and do as much merit as possible. And later she says to me, he'd never tell anybody that he's a Buddha. But for me, because I looked into him and he saw that I had some really intense mystical experiences, so giving me some kind of validation like that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And in fact, you were given, just as you mentioned at the beginning, before leaving US for Hawaii, you are giving the opportunity to study with Rolling Thunder, and because you had the ticket and everything was set in stone pretty much, you denied the offer. So have you met him since? Have you had the chance to take in some of his knowledge and wisdom?
So back in those days, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have business cards. It was and I was just flowing with, I was just I was just, you might say, not all that connected with my networking at the time. But when I lived on Maui, I did meet a woman named Oceana Fastwolf. And I believe she might have been the source. As I was in Marin County, I was the head of a Native American student organization. And one day a lady came in and left an envelope for me. Said, "You're supposed to have this," and she ran away. And then I opened it up, it was the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. And later I discovered that Oceana Fastwolf had been connected to those teachings, and she had been involved intimately with that. I met her on Maui. She came there several years later. We met and became great friends. And she told me she had spent the night in the Great Pyramid and had gone through the initiation. But later, when I had left Hawaii, she had contacted me, and she told me that Rahelio, the goddess, has her hand on your shoulder. So the goddess has her hand on your shoulder. And so when I was on Maui with that UFO experience, a week later, 7 days later, like I was saying, laying in my bed, my head was ringing high-pitched E. And then through the night, and I said to my girlfriend, "You hear that sound?" And she said, "I'm hearing it too." And then the back of my head began to hum. My medulla began to hum. And crown chakra opened up, turned open just turned. A beam of energy came right down my crown into my body. This beam was pure bliss and peace. And these women began to speak to me. They said, "Just relax and go with it. We're balancing your energy. Just relax and go with it." And when I was relaxed, it was really beautiful, just let it come in. But then all of a sudden my mind kicked in, and my mind got started like, what's going on? Who's doing this? What's going, what? I was totally, my mind was shocked because it just reacted really intensely. And again, the mind, the slayer, that which is real, the rational mind. My mind jumped like a ping pong ball. It bounced from this direct conduit of energy coming down. It bounced to the right, hit the perimeter of my mind here, and bounced back, ricocheted back, and came back, went through my center conduit. They were still saying to me, "Just relax, go with it. We're balancing your energy." My mind shot over to the left, bounced off there, and came back. And I knew that I wanted to be in this conduit. I knew this is where I wanted to be. On the sides, either side was like a radio signal. And you're exactly on the dial on the spot. It's pure music. But on the sides, it's very staticky. So that staticky was like ocean waves that were too rough and scattered, a psychic phenomenon, astral plane. And it also had a quality, this astral energy had a quality that did not want me in this conduit. So I knew I had to stop my mind in this conduit. And I went to stop my mind. In my mind, I almost stopped it, and it just went a little bit too far over. And it stopped in the static. And then the static was all over me like ocean waves that were too rough, hitting me with wave after wave that hit me. And I was like, I was really upset with myself that this rational mind got in the way. And so it was okay, though, because I got a taste. I got a taste. And they put that bliss into me. And then 3 years later, I thought I would, really the next year later, I thought I would never leave Maui, but signs started showing me I had to go. And so I left. I traveled looking for where I wanted to be on the mainland, and it brought me to Sedona. And I got here on the summer solstice 1987. So the day I arrived here, those women from the star people, I call them the goddesses, they beamed back into my mind, and they told me, "This is where you come to do your work. You're to be a spiritual guide." See, at that time I was 31 years old, and I didn't know what I was going to do in the world. I love the mystical stuff. How do you make a living doing that? I had no skills counseling people. I had no skills with doing anything that had any experience, So I was searching, where do I belong? I traveled places. I went to Lake Tahoe. I love Lake Tahoe. And they told me it snows in 3 months of the year. So what am I going to do for 3 months a year? And I don't like the cold. I've been in Hawaii. I want to be warmer. So anyways, here I came to Sedona, and they said to me, "This is where you'll do your work. You're to be a spiritual guide." There'll be thousands and thousands of people coming looking for answers. So speak of love and inspiration. There's going to be a great awakening coming. They told me a lot more about the universal mind, quantum consciousness, and that mastering our minds with our thought creates our reality. And they were telling me so much. And I'd say to them, I already know all that. Why are you telling me that? Because they opened up my higher mind. So my knowingness, I remembered everything. They're telling me more. I said, I already know all that. Why are you telling me that? And they told me some more. I said, I already know that. Why? I stopped myself. Because then I begin to feel like, I feel maybe like I'm being rude. Like, how do I know that? And I'm not Mr. Know-it-all. How? Where am I getting this from? I started to doubt myself. And then they said goodbye to me. And then I sat up because I was kind of leaning back like this. I sat there like, wow. And I remembered it all crystal clear. And then that part about the quantum mind and the higher level and the universal laws, I forgot. I didn't remember that. But it's on the tip of my mind. So as I continued always learning, I never stopped learning. I want to keep learning always. And I got a good feel for what they were telling me now, even though I don't remember it. When I was in the heightened state that they had pulled me into. And so they pulled me also into these higher states several times. I think it was I went into the fifth dimension. But in the fifth dimension, we are like gods. We are all knowing. We don't have a thinking, rational mind. What's the problem with modern people today is that our rational mind, we think too much and we get stuck in our heads and we got stressed in our minds. So the whole key is to stop the mind and the silence of the mind, the power of silence. And so at that level, from the fifth dimension level, we are that. We are silent mind. We have direct knowing. And if we don't know it, we know it as we need to know it. It will reveal to us as we go along. But you don't rationalize. Or at least I didn't when I was having those encounters. And I was taken into a mountain in the back of Sedona, like behind the Devil's Bridge where you're there. There's that mountain way back there. That's what we call the Temple of Isis. I have a map. A friend of mine, Nicholas, man, he and I collaborated, and he divinated a star grid for Sedona, which I can show you later if you like. I can send you a copy. I've redone it. And but that mountain, on the back side of it, I found myself there, wide awake, in my dream time. And I was like in the fifth dimension. And there I met a woman who took me into the mountain. There was a big mothership inside there. So the story goes, I'll tell you a little bit of the story. Because here I found myself sitting cross-legged on the high ledge, looking out, kind of like behind you, that Devil's Bridge. That ledge goes all the way around. I was sitting on that ledge, but behind that mountain over there. And I was looking out about, half a mile down. I was awed that I could see the plants and I could see the details in the leaves of the bushes and trees. And I'm in such a deep, still mind that I'm in awe of my own inner stillness, but I'm just at peace with it. And I'm looking, and as I look, I start to say, like, I can see the leaf in my mind. My realization was I can see the veins of the leaves, and I wanted to see closer. And as I squeezed my mind on it, like a camera shutter, it clicked, and then a lightning bolt came down, bam, hit right there. And I was like, I looked over this way, and I looked at the bush there, and I began to focus on it. My mind clicked on it, and the lightning bolt came down and hit right there. And then I looked over another place, like a half a mile away, and I focused my mind on it, and a bolt hit there, and raised my head up to the sky and said, finally, I have some power. When I was having my awakening, 21, 22 in Hawaii, I went through a real big ego death. Because our ego is our worst enemy at times. Because we're conditioned with all kinds of programming that is not in alignment to our higher self. And I was going through this ego death, and I had to go through all this, give my power away. Because we accumulate personal power, but that power was ego-based. So I had to go through this death experience. It was always kind of like, it was not easy at times, especially on my vision quest. My vision quest, I was always having to die and asking for, help me to, Great Spirit, help me to clear through those obstacles that are blocking me. So now here I feel like I got some power after being like powerless. Like I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have no power in the world. And now I got my hands up. That I feel like I have some power. And then a light bulb came down, bam, hit about 15, 20 feet away from me. And it was when you're in a heightened state, like I believe in the fifth dimension, it's kind of like going from watching a black and white TV and the old-fashioned color TV, and all of a sudden you get this high definition 4K TVs. And the stark contrast is so radical that people have a hard time adjusting to it. So this is how it is from where we are here to the next level up. It's the next level of high definition where you're perceiving things at such an acutely more sensitive level of perception. Like our capacity to perceive is greatly expanded. And so this bolt hit next to me, not that far away, and it jolted me like, bam! I jumped up so fast, I put my hands up to the sky and said, "That's your power. I won't make that mistake again." And then I start running. I'm running along that ledge. I'm jumping cactus. I'm running really super fast. And then I see a woman ahead of me. She gives me a look. She's probably about 100 yards ahead of me. And if I see her face, like I see your face, real close up, she gave me a real penetrating look. And I'm running real fast, and my heart's pounding. I'm panicking because I feel like I've transgressed. And she stopped me in my panic. And put me right back. She put me right back into my deep inner peace. And as I was running so fast, I caught it right up to her, and I began to slow down, and it come to a walk. She gave me another look, and she turned and she walked. And without speaking to me, the power of silent wisdom, I knew I was to follow her. And she walked right into the mountain. Now I was observing, and my observation was she was going to hit the wall. And she was taking big steps, and she was walking briskly. She stepped right into it, and it opened up like a doorway opened up sideways. And she walked right in, and I followed her. As I was looking up at the mountain, I was awed. Like it was like a hologram. The mountain was like a hologram. I went in the doorway, and I saw the doorway was telepathic. And it was a big mothership, very, very large. Like I said, as big as a mountain inside. And I looked to the right, and I saw 3 levels where people are walking on those levels. And I looked to the left. This is quite a ways over. Like, were they 50 yards over maybe? I don't know. I can't equate distance. I looked over to the left, and I saw 3 levels. People were walking, and in the front of me was a big open room, and people were busy. They were not passively observing. They were working. They were on point. And so, if you ever heard of Edgar Cayce,
Yes.
he prophesied that if there was not a spiritual awakening between 1958 and 1998, by the year 2000, we were going to have an Earth axis shift, cataclysm. He predicted if there was not a spiritual awakening. And so, from the work of Dolores Cannon, her hypnosis subject, she was given information that many people volunteered from the heaven realms, came down into incarnation to bring love and higher positive vibrations to the Earth to help offset the negativity. And that first wave of volunteers came of age in the 60s. And then others came in later, helping to lift the vibration. And so we were heading for Earth cataclysm. And my silent knowing tells me that those star people, not only here, but other places, the key places around Earth, they stabilize Earth's core. And they also stabilize the sun. And so giving us more time for the divine plan to unfold.
Yeah, thank you for sharing these beautiful experiences. And going back to the ego concept, do you think that we can do that on our own, like the ego death process, or we need help from our guides, from our higher self? What advice would you give someone who is looking to go through that process?
Well, I think it's always nice to have somebody help you. I mean, I did a lot on my own. So I found myself as a young man pushing myself into vision quests. And I didn't even know what vision quests were at the time. But I and take a psychedelic and go by myself and think I'm going to lose my mind because it's going to blow my mind. Because some people say, "Oh, psychedelic, LSD, etc." Oh, that's mellow, gentle, nice opening. And not for me. For me, it was like my sensitivity. Even with strong marijuana, it blows my ego off. My ego dissolves, and when your ego dissolves, you lose control. And you go into like, "Oh shit, I'm dying," or "I'm losing my mind. I'm gonna lose my mind." And nothing like go through an ego death and make you start praying to the Great Spirit to help you. It was my heartfelt, passionate prayers that then I made contact to get through those difficult times where I made contact with spiritual guidance. And ultimately, before I left to go to Hawaii, I was still in California, Marin County there. All the books I had been reading, because I was at a party. We used to have these parties and we would dance into the night and then go to catch the sunrise at the beach and or the sunrise or the like morning, etc. And one night somebody brought us some really strong marijuana. And everybody smoked it. And it just kind of wiped everybody out because it was so strong. I remember in my mind, I saw there's a fog in my mind. Then my mind was no longer contained in my brain, but in my head, but my mind was expanded outside myself. And I saw the fog all around me. And I thought, I want to see through this fog. I want to see through this fog. And a beam of light came, penetrate the fog, hit me right in the brain, right in the mind's eye. It split the fog from my mind. And my master spoke to me. He said, "It's time for you to wake up, remember, and learn." So I left that party. I went home. And around the street from where I live, around the block, there was a bookshop in town, midnight. And it was like 10:30. So I went in and started reading anything metaphysical I could find. And they all, the books, there were some good books, but they always started really good, but they always let me down at the end. Like, I can't get what I'm looking for in these books. I can't get it. Emerald tablets were very powerful, but everything I read, it said, you have to go on a vision quest. And for 3 nights, cry your heart to the Great Spirit, ask to be initiated. So coming up from school, I'd go to school early in the morning, I'd go to work in the language lab. I lost my paid position as the Native American head of that student organization. I still had it, but they had cutbacks in California with the financial crisis. And so I had to take on a side job. So I was working in the language lab, Native American office, and then my classes, and then more in the language lab, and then come home. It was just too much. And I was like dying. I needed to find my soul. And I'd come home and for an hour, for 3 nights, I cried, a Great Spirit, please, my master, wake me up. I can't be a regular human being. I have to find myself. I'm dying here. I cried for an hour every night. And all I wanted was to be awakened. And after 3 nights of crying, the 4th day, all that frustration, all that struggle, all that ego death was gone. I was just happy. I was just light. Thought, wow, I cried it all out. I feel so good. Many people that crying for vision. I cried it all out. And then came from school that next night and I sat down, my mind was blank, and all of a sudden my head began to hum. And a blue light came out of my mind's eye, like a projector beam, and spiraled a big blue spiral in the room. And I was awed by this because I didn't expect that to happen. And then a white cloud came through the wall and merged into the blue spiral, came back into my mind's eye. And I said, wow. It lasted about 10, 15 minutes. The next day, the same thing happened again, but this time I sat back, instead of seeing the blue spiral, I saw the white cloud. Then I began to have a vision. The cloud became a vision screen. I started having this vision on this white cloud screen. And then I saw me in the other room, bilocated, but I was in the future. Just as I am here now, I was there in the future. And I was awed that I was there in 2 places at once. And then I bilocated into the future. Now I was in the future functioning. And I'd go back and forth between in the present moment and in the future. I was going back and forth like that. In the Toltec wisdom, they call that here and here. when you bilocate here and here. And that jolted me, that experience jolted me, because other people came and became more complicated. It wasn't just me in the room, but other people came in the future in that vision, and it kind of knocked me off balance. So I pulled myself out of the trance. And that's why I said, I got to go, bought my ticket, and I'm going to Maui. And I had been invited to come, and I'm going. And then I was fortunate to meet Rolling Thunder right before I was ready to go. He said to me, like, when he's inviting me, I was like, I wanted that so much, because I wanted that elder, but I already knew my car was on the boat and my ticket, and it was like the desert, hot, dry, desert survival, vision quest, sweat lodge, plant medicine teachings, more of a warrior training, kind of austere, very strict, clairvoyant grandfather, very strict elder. And then I had Hawaii, palm trees, ocean, the beach, Hulu girls, he was like, so I was still torn. But he said to me, you're not going to come, but later you'll walk the red road. You'll walk the red road. So when I got here to Sedona, I had a very powerful vision given to me in my dream time where the ancient spirit guardians came to me. They were Native American appearing red rock pinnacles, and they just blew me away my first time I encountered them in the dream state. So I was in this, I found myself wide awake, and where am I? I'm out here in the desert. How did I get out here? I don't have an idea where I am. But I feel this power behind me. Turning, there they are. They're standing there looking at me, looking down at me. These Native American appearing spirit guardians. And when I looked to see them, their frequency was so powerful that my eyes actually bounced off. I could not look upon them. When my eyes bounced off, I had those blinders on. Like before, they were out here, when my mind bounced back and forth off of them in the Hawaii experience. But here, my blinders were right there. And my first thought, it's too big for me. I can't go there. I want to mind my own business and stay in my little life. I don't want to go there. Back when I was a young mystic on Maui, my mantra was Gate, Gate, Peragate, Perasam Gate Bodhisoha. Beyond the appearances we see, beyond the gods, beyond to the great mystery, to that beyond the void there, I bow to thee. So these beings were coming out of the void, these primordial spirit guardians. So they were so powerful that my little ego mind, it was just too much for this little self to contend with that. And I had my blinders on. I'm thinking, I'm just going to, I wasn't even thinking. All of a sudden, my conduit opened up. And all of a sudden, cosmic bliss was flowing through me. And I was like, wow, like I'm flowing with this cosmic bliss. Wow, what's going on? Wow. Oof. Oh, I don't even want to talk to them. I just want to mind my own business. And I'm going to go that way. If I can get about 15 yards over there by that tree, I'll take off running. I pretend I didn't see them and I'll play dumb. And I was just so blissed out that I'm like, wow, I was almost like losing my mind because it was so much bliss. But the paradox that the spirit was showing me. And I got to where I was going to run away. Right when I got ready to run, they stopped me with a force field. And I stopped in my tracks from running away. So I turn and I look at them. Now I can interface with them. Now my soul frequency is on. I can look at them and I say to them, why me? Why are you looking at me? They don't speak. They're just looking down at me. Red rock faces, high cheekbones, Native American, ancient Native American spirit-looking beings. They don't say anything, but they emanate. A horizontal line comes. And I watch this horizontal line coming towards me. And when I went to Maui, being from the Midwest, I was not used to the ocean. When I got out of the ocean, I turned my back on a big wave came and caught me from the back and threw me down and spun me through a vortex of the wave. It was thundering, roaring over me. Well, this horizontal line was what I consider a gravity wave. Like in space with black holes and things, gravity waves. Gravity is a gravity wave, and it spun me. And it was thundering silence. if you can imagine the vastness of the void, the silence of the void hit me as a wave, a gravity wave, and it tumbled me, and I was spinning through the vortex, exactly the same as what the ocean did to me in Hawaii. So here the spirit is showing me, the ocean was showing me, they were showing me that the spirit's been with me all along. I just didn't know. But little by little, I started to put the pieces together. Like, oh, that's where I'm being shown. These teachings are being shown. Anyway, it spun me, and I came up from that. And again, I said to them, why me? Why are you looking at me? And they sent another wave. Since I didn't have a rational mind, I didn't think to duck the wave. I wasn't thinking like that. I just watched it come. And it hit me chest high and did me over again. And I spun through that. And I came up. And I woke up in my bed going, wow, what is this all about? I have no way to understand this. This is beyond my comprehension. I thought about it a little bit. No, there was nothing I could do. It was in the back of my mind. I was just went about my business, and I was driving along. And 1 week later, on my 7-day thing, 1 week later, I'm driving down the highway. And in Sedona, if you've been to Sedona, there's the airport road, the street light there now. It's Soldiers Pass light right next to it. I was driving after going west, and I saw down to the west a rock formation that sticks up. Today they call it the coxcomb. I call it the Council of Elders. But I saw it for the very first time, and my body began to vibrate in my chest. Like I thought, what's going on? I'm vibrating, and I'm non-physical. My chest is non-physical, and I'm vibrating. Like, what's going on here? And I looked back at that rock formation, and it came off of there in front of my car, about maybe 30 yards to the left of the highway. And these Indian faces were looking down at me, the same faces. But they were big faces because they were up close. And it's like, wow, like I'm trying to, I looked back down my chest, and I saw my chakras. I saw heart chakra, solar plexus chakra, and a little small chakra to the right, spleen chakra, which was interesting to see that like that off to the side. And next thing I know, I'm driving, I see that formation down. It's called the coxcomb of Council of Elders. I saw me 10 miles away. I was approximately. I saw me in the distance there, little me standing in front of it. As I'm driving, I see me there with my eagle eye vision again, because I can see real far in those states of consciousness. And the next thing I know, I bilocate, and I'm back there in my body in the dream 1 week before. And I'm saying to them, why me? Why are you looking at me? And then they hit me with the wave, right? And then I'm back in my car. They didn't hit me with the wave at that time. I just said it. And then I'm back in the car trying to drive again. They're over here looking at me, and I see me way down there by the rock formation. And I bilocate again. And so I drove down the highway bilocating. It probably was, 2 minutes, but it seemed like a very, very long time because time was kind of stopped. But I'm sure I didn't drive that far down the highway because you can only see them for about a 2-minute drive. You can see that formation. And so, but within that time frame, it was like time had stopped, and I had gotten into that touch with eternity through those spirit guardians. So this is what Roy Thoreau told me. He says, later you will walk the red road. And I found also in my dreams, several dreams I had, these Native American people came to me, males, and they were very adamant. They were very upset. They were upset that Sedona was being overrun by Americans who had no regard for the sacredness of the land. And they said to me, without speaking to me, they told me, without speaking, but very intently, they said, do the songs, do the ceremonies. I pushed back. I said, I didn't grow up with that. I didn't grow up with that. Somebody's got to teach me. Somebody's got to teach me. So I'm defiant, I'm still a little defiant. I'm pushed back. And so the next year or two, then certain medicine people started coming through town. And Wallace Black Elk was one. And I got to sit with him, and he would have a sweat lodge, the community come together, and a lot of people were wanting to come and hear the elders speak. Different elders were coming through town like that. And he invited me to come up and train with him, but I was already locked into my life here, so I never felt like I wanted to go. And I wanted to go, but I was already kind of plugged in. So um, it's been a very interesting journey for me in Sedona.
Yes, and indeed. And I can tell you by sharing all these experiences from my own perspective, I don't think you could have achieved any higher level of consciousness, awareness, connection with divine by going with Rolling Thunder. I mean, it's just a humble opinion. You know better than that for sure, but listening to all these achievements, I think in the end you still made the right choice. You are walking the red path, which is the land of Sedona, and you are still guiding a lot of people who are going there and are looking for your songs and ceremonies and all the wisdom you can share with. And I can give you a quick story on my own. I mean, we booked this interview, and 2 3 weeks ago, I was reading the Flower of Life book by Drunvalo Melchizedek, and in that book, he mentions another book, which is Sedona by Nicholas Mann. And this book's supposed to arrive in July. And for whatever reason, it arrived 3 days ago. And I opened the book and the thank you page, your name is there. And I said, wow. And I did my best to read the entire book before this interview. So I'll be more knowledgeable in what Sedona really is in terms of sacred geometry and relationship with Egypt, because you have the Isis rock, you have the Horus rock, and so much symbolism there. And I would like to ask you if you walk the chakras path based on the math of Nicholas Mann, or took your guests or your guests and clients through this path.
I like to share that map because it's educational for people. The more you understand, the more you can receive. So, and also, it's kind of like when people are going through a drug test, they give them a sugar pill, or they give them medication, or they don't give them anything. The ones who take the sugar pill get well as much as people who take the medicine. So the medicine itself may also be a sugar pill. But my point is that our minds have the power to create. That's the whole thing, that we're learning the power of our creative mind energy. And so the more people understand, the more power of their knowingness supports their faith. And so that grid map, I've redone the grid map in a much more modern Google map. And if you want, I'll send you a copy of it. It's a much better map. But I also got Nicholas's map, and I colored it. I colored the bird in, the bird in there. I colored the bird so you can see it better and make it more accessible to people to look at it and get an idea. Yeah, so I just really, I was really impressed with Nicholas pulled that out. And when I really saw it click is when I took him up to Rachel's Hill, Rachel's Knoll, and I showed him that spot. And when he went and he looked and saw that chakra line on the edge of the property, I saw him looking at, he calls it Isis Rock. I call it the Temple of Isis, because I've been up there. There's an Indian ruin up there, and I see 3 columns of 3 goddesses standing there. So I see something a little bit different than what his vision of it was. But the idea that that line goes from Chapel Holy Cross, where the Madonna and the nuns are, some called the Four Sisters, right through the upper vortex, over the Sugarloaf Rock, over the Thunder Mountain, next to that place where you're standing there. The Devil's Bridge is not the center. The Devil's Bridge, on the other side of the mountain, there's a hidden canyon there. There's the most incredible Indian ruin there, and nobody knows about it. Probably shouldn't say that, but it's a spectacular hidden spot there. It's closer to the center of that 6-pointed star. And so right behind you, you can almost see Rachel's Knoll. The Temple of Isis is in that formation that you're over your right shoulder there. That's right where it is on that map. Yeah, right there next to you. That's it. So yeah, I really enjoy talking about sacred geometry. And you see this has a 5-pointed star on it.
Yeah, is that a tetrahedron?
It's a dodecahedron.
Okay.
And there, that's a 6-pointed star. But usually it's really the 5-pointed star right there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, the 5-pointed star. So it's all 5-pointed stars, but as they overlap, it becomes a 6-pointed star. So his map is a 5-pointed star and a 6-pointed star. So I'm really so thankful for Nicholas's expertise in looking at sacred geometry, and what he did was just incredible. And yeah, so I've been loving using it, and to put some extra spots on the map. When we look at the Earth energy grids, because this is the world grid, this is the spider woman's web of the dream catcher. You ever seen a picture of the sun, the solar wave hitting against the Earth's magnetic field? It bends the Earth's magnetic field backward.
Yes.
Magnetic field is just like a spider. The spider woman weave the web of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so the acupuncture meridian grid system, we have yang points and yin points in neutral. Yang for the Mother Earth is a female body with water. The yang points are the desert pinnacles. Pinnacles are the masculine. Energy rises up from the earth into the sky and comes back down as a lightning bolt. This is the Earth's kundalini. It travels these spiderweb lines and it consolidates in places of power, especially the mountains. So these are the yang places. The higher up you go, the more power in the yang. And the yin places are like the tropical places, Hawaii and valleys and canyons and lush with water, the springs. So Sedona has a little bit of both, because we have the Oak Creek Canyon with natural springs, Slide Rock area. There's like maybe 5 to 7 very powerful spots up in the canyon. I like going up in the canyon by the creek to do prayers with the water, give thanks to the spirit of the water. Indigenous people, shamanic people, their whole religious understanding is living in harmony with Mother Earth, the circle of life. And the modern Western world is so used to going to the grocery store and buying their food and get the water out of the tap, and everything is secondhand. Where for indigenous people are living closer to nature, and sustenance is coming from our spiritual relationship with our garden, with the springs, with the spiritual power in the mountains, bringing balance to the Mother Earth. The people making pilgrimage to power spots. It is not just Native American people that did that. All over the world, ancient peoples made pilgrimages to power spots. Those are the points on the world grid. People are going to those places to connect with it's their connection to the heaven realm, higher self. What's my connection to heaven? Is the power of love. Do I love my life? Do I love my home? Do I love my family? Do I feel connected to my soul? Do I feel connected to Mother Earth? Am I in harmony? Am I living purposefully? Quite often we feel like I'm not living purposefully. I'm not feeling connected. I'm feeling disconnected from my higher self. I need to go to a power spot and make that connection. So this has been going on all through history. Sedona is one of these places where the people would come in the whole sacred space. And there has been a building in the cliff dwellings, ruin sites today, all through the back canyons. But the main canyon where the water is flowing down Oak Creek Canyon, the passageway up to Flagstaff, they didn't live there. They lived in the back canyons, which is interesting. So I did find in the Oak Creek Canyon a very beautiful painted cross on the rock wall. And I've seen this migration symbol. And one of the Hopi elders, White Bear, had told me the stories of, like, I think it's the time of the sinking of Atlantis and Lemuria, when the last cataclysm took place, where the peoples that migrated from Lemuria, the Pacific. They have a different name for it. I can't pronounce it, so I don't want to mispronounce it, because people are very critical about mispronouncing their language. But Lemuria, as it was going down, some of the people went to the Himalayas, where they put their temples and shrines. They have the 4 sacred mountains in the Himalayas. Today, they're still doing their prayer pilgrimages to those shrines. To hold the balance, those 4 mountains are the 4 guardian spirits, the embodiment of the 4 guardian spirits, 4 directions. And he said that the people traveled by boat. They went over to, they landed over by Machu Picchu, South America, built Machu Picchu, which at that time was closer to sea level. and many people stayed there to build, and others continued north. And they went by boat north, and they came to these islands that came up out of the water as Mexico.
Mhm.
Some stayed there to build, and others came up to the Four Corners here, including Sedona and the Four Corners of the Hopi Reservation. And they put their shrines in the cliffs there. He says, we know these are all the same people because in the windows, we have the T-shaped windows in Machu Picchu. I was in Mexico in the jungles of Palenque, Chiapas, and I found a hidden temple that they had T-shaped windows. And in the Four Corners here in the Southwest, you find the T-shaped windows. So these people, they settled in holding the balance of the Southwest. Like we are, in this star grid, we have the 5-pointed star. We are that 2 feet and 2 hands and a head. We are 5-pointed stars. But also built within us is the 4-directional cross. All of our traditions, like a medicine wheel, the 4 sides of a pyramid, the 4 sides of a stupa, these 4 directions have teachings. Each direction is a test we have to master. And so this is built into our body. Mirroring the earth, we have 7 chakras. Earth has 7 continental chakras. We're over 2/3 composed of water. Earth's over 2/3 covered by water. We have the spider web acupuncture meridian grid system. Then we get the 4 directions built into us in the 5-pointed star. So our top of our head is the North Pole. The bottom of our feet, legs together, South Pole. Right hand extended is the Eastern Pole, the day side, and the left hand extended is the Western Pole, the night side, the yin and the yang. Here's the sun god on the right side. Now everybody's aspiring to the sun god, to the light. Here on the left was the nighttime, the full moon, and you had to be a lunatic to get underneath the full moon. Why? Why are you crazy better than the full moon? Under the full moon, that's when the vampire and the werewolf came out. So get in the house, protect yourself from evil. So good and evil, you're born left-handed, they would make you right because they're scared you'd get possessed. So we live in a right-hand dominant world. Now, if you go hiking with a group of people, majority of the people are going to be right-handed, right side stronger. And you hike without a trail, you get hiking, you make a big circle because the right foot takes a bigger step. It happened to me with a group of my friends when we were teenagers in the woods. We got lost, and so I understood. We came right back to where we started from. So in shamanism, it's about awakening the left-hand side, bringing balance. The left hand is the female side, because the female has been repressed. She's been repressed ever since Adam and Eve. And Eve ate the fruit of the tree of knowledge, and they got kicked out of the garden because they were not supposed to have that knowledge. Because the gods were afraid that the human beings would find the tree of life, eat of its fruit, and become immortals like the gods, and they didn't want that. They wanted the human beings to be subservient. The gods, these are called the Anunnaki. Our history, they're all over the world in our ancient history. Megalithic sites. They were involved in all this understanding of these buildings. And those traditions were fighting with each other. And so that's why our religions today are fighting with each other still. And you have Old Testament God that's angry, jealous, and vengeful. So I thank God for Jesus coming down and doing his part.
Yes.
It took a lot off of this.
Yeah. And
so
going back to the sacred geometry, we are sacred geometry. Every single part of our body is based on P ratio and again, sacred geometry overall. And if I look at the map, which you helped to be drawn by Nicholas, even these natural formations are placed like someone, like a human being or like the divinity, placed them specifically to be part of a circle, to be part of a pentagram or something, a geometrical figure, which will mean something. It's very, very interesting. And you also mentioned the fact that people are coming to Sedona. Some of them understand the how powerful, energetically powerful the place is. And lately, in the last, let's say, 4, 5, 6 years, have you seen a reversal of those who are really looking to find themselves, discover themselves, connect with divinity? Or is still the same sense of touristic approach to Sedona?
Well, since I've been here, there's always been people coming for the sacred to connect their soul Today it's the same, just a lot more people are coming in general. Today, going into nature, like our national parks are getting millions of visitors a year. The national parks are sacred places. So being in nature, greeting the sunrise and the sunset and the full moon has become the new spirituality. Everybody's coming to do that. Everybody's doing that. And be underneath the stars also. Everybody wants to connect with something bigger. And then with the fire and the sacred fire and the ceremony. And whether you're just a mundane human being, you still want to catch the sunrise or the sunset, be out under the full moon, get on the mountain, go to the sacred places. You want to go there, you want to experience life. Oh, one thing I want to finish about the East Pole and the West Pole. The Plateau Tibet is the eastern pole, is the dominant pole. It's the male side, the right side is the male side, our active side. We're a right-handed world, our male dominant world. The highest male pinnacle in the world is Mount Everest. The opposite side of the world, exactly opposite side of the world, is the second largest plateau. With the 4 sacred mountains of the indigenous people making pilgrimages to the shrines there, and we have the world's largest female womb there. That's the Colorado Plateau. The mountains you see behind us, these are all part of the plateau that we wrote it out from the ocean. The Grand Canyon is the world's largest womb. So we have these 4 sacred mountains, and for these, San Francisco has the highest, Flagstaff has the highest pinnacle in northern Arizona. In Arizona, San Francisco Peaks, that's one of the sacred mountains. There's shrines there of the ancient Hopi people, modern Hopi people. Mount Taylor in New Mexico, Mount Blanca in Colorado, Mount Hesperus on the Utah-Colorado border. So those represent the 4 guardian spirits. And that both sides, the people have been maintaining the balance of the world. But the people of the Hopi land say the world's going out of balance. The world's going out of balance. We're in the time of purification. The elements are going extreme. The fire element, we have all these droughts and fires, extreme fires. The winds are going out of balance. The air element, the tornadoes and the hurricanes are extreme now. The water is going out of balance. We're having tidal waves, and we're having, the global temperatures in the oceans are rising, so it's causing more volatile storms, flooding, etc., extreme rains, hail coming down real huge, golf, softball size, breaking people's windows.
Yeah.
And then the earth, more volcanoes are going off now. Everywhere you look, there's, in the last 20 years, 30 years, everything's been accentuating. It was going to hit a cataclysm by the 2000 because of the awakening that took place starting in the 60s. We have had intervention from the star people, from the people who are part of the divine plan for human evolution for our journey into the golden age. So we do have help. That's why I tell people, don't give power to all the conspiracy of the dark forces and the deep state and all this revolution you want to fight against, because the deep state is inside of every human being. We all have our own shadow. And that's why Lord Jesus said, resist ye not evil. You fight with it, it's going to get a hold of you. That's why you get people in our country trying to storm the government, and religious people are right wing are fighting the dark force, but the dark force is inside them. It's inside all of us. So the battle of Armageddon is inside of us. So we have to bring light into our shadow, love and forgiveness, ho'oponopono. Because when people have a near-death experience, they go, I was so scared to die. I crossed over. It was just, the universe was pure love. The galaxy, the universal consciousness was pure love. Great Spirit is unlimited love, light. And the people there, and my relatives there, they'll say, I got a life review. And in a moment of time, I had expanded perspective where I saw my whole life. Everything I ever thought, said, or did, I saw it all clearly. Mm-hmm. And I feel so bad and guilty about all the things I did wrong and how I hurt other people. And the people say, oh yeah, you did all that. Yes, it's true, you did all that. But look at all the good you did. You did so much more good. So keep your spirit up. You did more good. You're a good person. You did this wrong, but go back and get it right. So in shamanic traditions, the people are having in their practices, pushing themselves into near-death experiences or connecting with the greater and bringing this wisdom back that we are one with all that is. We got to hold the balance to make things right. Ho'oponopono. That's Hawaiian version of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And the guy that demonstrated in the mental institute in Oahu healed people in the mental institute that were violent and had drug and alcohol problems just by doing Ho'oponopono, as if those people were his son, they were his shadow. And so by doing it for them, he was really doing it for his own shadow. He was doing it for his own shadow, but he healed them. So Jesus would say, judge not lest you judge yourself. Do unto others as you want done unto you. Yes. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. So Jesus says it all. That's why I love the teachings of Jesus. I just don't like the religious limitations of their philosophical program, bias. But a true Christian is about these teachings. And there are many true Christians who are walking in the name of Jesus. But this is also true with the teachings of the Buddha. This is also true of the teachings of the Native American wisdom, the wisdom of fire teachings. It's about being in harmony with all of our relations, that we are connected to everything. So for Native people speak of 7 generations. Pray and contribute to the well-being of the collective, to circle of life for 7 generations, to renew the water, to renew the forest, for the plant and the animal, for the air we breathe. So the people say, who is speaking for the Mother Earth? Who is speaking for the environment and the ecological system of balance? So it has been the Native American voice that has been the inspiration for many of the Greenpeace activists and others who are finding inspiration to live in harmony, because the Native American spirit is within many of us. It doesn't matter what race we are, what color we are all indigenous of the earth. We are all indigenous from the heaven realm. So we're all learning to find our place on the earth and contribute. So to go back to what I was saying, Sedona is the Grand Canyon and the Colorado Plateau is the western pole of the planet. The Benton Plateau, eastern pole. So Sedona is a part of this. Mm-hmm. It's not just Sedona, but Sedona is drawing its power from the Grand Canyon and the plateau, in the 4 sacred mountains. And no matter where you go, you find indigenous people speak in their land. They have their 4 sacred mountains. So a microcosms within the macrocosms, within the microcosm, within the macrocosm. As above, so below.
Yeah, indeed. And I think that if the governments would have fulfilled their engagements when they signed treaties with Native Americans or indigenous people all over the world, I think the world will and the earth will look differently, because these treaties put in place stringent conditions that the natives will take care of the land, and no one will go through their land without their permission. But this didn't happen. A lot of unfortunate things. Yeah. So it happened in Australia, in Canada, US, in South America. So they're just pieces of paper which give the government some respite to build more measures to enforce their policy instead of respecting these agreements. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, like the chakras of the world, root chakra, primal Africa, the continent, primitive, primal, powerful animals, instinctual power there. Second chakra, South America, the twin to Africa, the rhythm and the passions and the creativity, the feeling, Latin America. And we're living in a third chakra world, Europe. Europe is the third chakra. And that includes that part of Russia, European Russia. So they've had their hands controlling the whole world. Europeans have. Yeah. And there's been all types of warfare taking place between those nations. And the United States is an extension of Europe. He who has the best weapons dominates the world. He who has the best scientists, the best economy, the best thinkers. So the higher chakras are not awakened in the 3D world, but the possibilities are there. So the possibilities of the higher chakras. So like on the chakra map, like Sedona, I think maybe it's more appropriate to the yin yang and the neutral vortex lights. But I think as we become aware of the chakras as map, we dream it awake. We dream it awake. We are dreaming awake heaven on earth. Mm-hmm. This is a part of the prophecy. When the people begin to awaken, the rainbow peoples, people of all nations, all colors, all traditions are beginning to awaken. They begin to dream. Mind awakens, will dream heaven on earth. and that's the shift into the fifth dimension. I believe that'll be a wave from the galaxy coming in, causing changes and causing us to wake up. And it's not like the Mother Earth going through her extremes to be a wake-up call for human survival. Nothing like thinking you're going to die to make you wake up spiritually. And when you begin to wake up spiritually, then you realize, so what if I do die? Where do I go? Is my karma good? Do I go into the heaven realm, or am I going to get stuck in a hell realm? And people say to me, well, you don't believe in hell, do you, Rahelio? I was like, well, the Toltecs and the Mayas, they spoke of 9 hells, 13 heavens. I said, have you ever had a nightmare? And yeah, well, that's hell realm. It's not real, but when you're in it, it feels real. And you know what else? The teachers, the masters, they say that this world here is also not real. So it's not real. We're in a dream that we think is real. We're attached to the ego ignorance that creates false desire that causes our being stuck in the wheel of reincarnation, our suffering, our conflict. And we say we've done that a number of times in lifetimes. We're ready to get done with that. We're ready to graduate. We know that we're going into a heaven realm. If we bring our karma into balance, ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. And we all have shadows, and nobody's walking on water. We all have, we're all learning to heal and be a light for others, a light for ourselves. But by doing that ho'oponopono, understanding that we're in the circle of life, we don't have to be sorry. We just have to be rejoiceful and thankful and not come from a place of guilt and blame. But we are holding the light frequency, and when we make mistakes, we pick ourselves back up. But so the problem is we're actually in a war of spiritual war now. It's always been going up, but it's coming to a head now. The darkness is coming up in people, and the light and the struggle between the two. The problem is that in that struggle, the people are struggling with their own darkness. That's how they're being taken advantage of, and not even realizing that they're bonds of the duality. So to be able to step above the duality and hold that light first, without attachment to outcomes, because sometimes you got to go through painful experiences to grow. So it's like we could judge, the world wars were really bad, but the world had to go through that to get to where we are today. And the crisis we're going through now, we have to go through it to bring the shadow up so people can be fed up with being stuck in their shadows of self-righteousness. Self-righteousness, because I feel self-righteous, I can conquer you. We're all having to find balance within ourselves.
Yes.
Go to the Mother Earth and putting our prayers into the Mother Earth, putting our life force into the Mother Earth, giving our offerings to the Mother Earth. It's like we're paying back all the blessings that she has given us and the Spirit has given. We're giving back, doing our work. And by doing that, the higher powers can intervene for us. Because in nature, there are powers that are not so harmonious. And so we have to let the higher powers in to neutralize and harmonize places where the forces are out of balance.
Yeah, indeed. I agree with you. And I know you have tools to declutter someone's shadows, trauma, through various ceremonies and sweat lodges. Would you be able to expand a little bit on this type of offerings, and if there's any, let's say, prerequisite for someone who would like to attend such ceremonies?
Okay, so like when I became an astrologer back in the 80s, people say, well, what have you been doing? I've been studying astrology obsessively. Well, do you really think it works? I said, yeah, I'll do your chart for you. For like $25, I'll write it up and I'll have all my reference books and I'll take from that and I'll write a little story for you. We'll talk about it. And so I do that. And I feel real good that, you're going through this problem and this is causing you this and you're having this stress or anxiety. They go like, I already know all that. Can you help me? Can you help me? And like, because before I was feeling like good that I was validating that is working, that I could use it. I had skill, but then I was like, I felt totally deflated. Like I have no skills to help people. I felt very, it was like it kind of like gave me a reality check. Like, what good is it if you can't help people? Because people are in crisis. And so I started looking at healing modalities and said, how do we heal? I look at different elders and different traditions, different ways. And myself particularly when I was young, as a young astrologer, I had the opportunity to lecture, and I had a very inspirational, genius mind, and I was very leading edge at the time as a young man. But whenever I had given opportunity to lecture, I didn't realize it, but I have a public speaking fear. I had. And I thought, oh, I can't, I'm locked up. There's a commitment from my past life. Fear of speaking my truth got me killed. So, it would kick up and I didn't even know I had it. So I thought, how do I clear myself? And so I was looking at various methods, and I combined a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and I created my own system. This is back in the early 90s. I was doing a TV commercial for the Time Life books, Mysteries of the Unknown, 1990. And they wanted me to come in the medicine wheel, do my prayer and my invocation the way the producer had seen me do. And so waiting for the other actors to talk and do their part of the commercial, and that 2-minute commercial lasted like 6 hours. So I waited 4 hours for my turn, and the more I waited, the more I began to build up with anxiety. Like, oh God, I'm starting to freeze up because I got these cameras. It's all very, very professional. So I went over to the side where I was private, and I started hitting myself on the chest, moving my eyes. Shamanic people do eye movements to clear like trauma and addiction and conditions that where our energy is stuck. I learned this from a Toltec wisdom, and it was from the teachers of Don Juan, the Toltec wisdom came through Carlos Castaneda, and then also one of his students, I think it was Tisha Avila or Florinda Donner, they had written about the method of the eye movements. I was using the eye movements, and all traditions, shamanic people have used acupuncture points. In Asia, they put the needles in, but for them, they would hit you with like bundles of herbs, or they would tap their thymus, the hit points. I learned from an elder from South America, tapping the body, gather the sky energy, and bring it down over the person's aura, which is best when you use feathers, so bring it right to the aura. Smoke, but he taught you use your hands. And then everybody's laying down and tap from the head, tapping the body all the way down, and then put your hands on the earth to release it, and then come back and rub down the body and pull it. And then every time you made a pass on the body, you would touch the earth to release the energy. You get people's negative energy stuck on you. And so what I saw about that is when you're laying down, you're more in a passive position. So people who are in crisis, they're passive. So wiping them down, it's good, but it's only temporary. When I have them standing up, I can have them feeling more acute, their problems, and bring it up so I can clear it. And I streamlined everything. So I created my own system with it, which was using the trigger points, using the eye movements, pulling on the ears to release the vagus nerve and release trauma from the body, some breath, also affirmations. I would clear people. I could clear people really quick. 10, 15 minutes, I could clear people. Really deep problems, I could clear people. But one day I had a woman that she would not clear. She had all this guilt and shame because she did something that hurt her 12-year-old daughter. Now her daughter's like 20 and she won't talk to her. And she's in crisis because my daughter won't talk to me. And I had so much guilt. And I tapped her and triggered her and moved her eyes and wiped her, and she wouldn't clear. I thought, okay, what's going on with this? She won't let me clear her because she thinks she deserves to suffer. She deserves to be guilty. Now, a lot of people have self-loathing. They hate themselves. They're guilty. They're ashamed. It's their fault. And so I started doing the psychological reversal, rubbing the hands. The little finger in astrology is a Mercury finger. The Mercury finger, your memory, your thought, your learning. And the base of the bottom of the hand here is the moon. The moon deals with your emotional programs, your comforts, your conditions, your subconscious. So rubbing them together, I rub their hands, tap their hands to break up stagnant energy there and do affirmations. I love and accept myself, even if it's my fault, even if I'm a terrible person, even if I hate myself, even if I'm guilty, even if Now, some people don't like to do those kind of interventions. They don't. They go, "Oh, that's not my fault. I feel no. I don't be. I don't want to say that." They can get offended by that even. Like, I don't want to like say no. You just want to say in your subconscious. When you're a little child, you may have done something that you got punished for and said, "You're bad and you deserve to be punished." That's still there. And the reason why you're sabotaging yourself is because the program is there. And the more defensive you can be about how righteous you are, the more your shadow is making you out of balance.
Yeah.
So some people will rebel, like, I don't want to say those things. It's like, I had somebody get upset with me and throw a little fit because I said these things and pushed that button. Yeah, it's not my fault. It's a loving acceptance, even if it is my fault. So therefore, there's nothing to defend. Because all our ego does is defend ourselves. Like, it's not my fault. Minimize, no, deflect. I was like, I'm sorry, please forgive my total responsibility. It's all my fault. But then we do that, then we feel like we're a victim upon the cross suffering. Like, no, you don't say it as the ego, you say it as an oversoul. Oversoul is saying, this ego is sorry, please forgive him. And so basically we're God forgiving God. Because we forgot who.
Exactly.
So I incorporate my medicine pipe when I blow the smoke on people, use my feathers to wipe their aura. And I use some sound healing. Way back when I started drumming on people. On my tours, I drum on people, play the flute and guide them through a drum journey, sound healing on the body. So in my healing sessions privately, I'm also using tuning forks, crystal bowl, and rattles, and I'm clearing the energy body and wiping them down and then reset them. I can go from 10 minutes to half an hour just doing that. And then sometimes I'll do a half-hour meditation journey where I take them into their higher self connection. Or I'll read their astrology chart and show what's going on in their life, what their karma is about, what they need to clear, if they don't know what the karma is about, and then what's going on in their life now and how it looks into the future. So I'll do that. Then I work privately with people. I take them in my sweat lodge, or I work with groups for the sweat lodge. I do some community sweat lodges, some private ones, and I do weddings. I got a medicine wheel over at the Buddhist stupa. Have you been to the stupa?
No.
Amitabha Stupa, and there's a medicine wheel I built there back in 2003. So I've been holding space for a long time. I've been evolving, it's like, I don't want to be on a pedestal because I have my shortcomings, but it's like, I stop humble, and if I make mistakes, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And it's, really important for us to, as we get older, one of the elders said to me is like, the reason why you listen to us elders is because not only we have more experience, but we've made a lot of mistakes and we've learned from that, so we're teaching you. So in the same way, don't use your mistakes to beat you up and have regrets and guilt and shame, but use your mistakes as wisdom teaching. So you can I learned from that. It took me a while, I learned from that. Our experience is a great teacher. This is where the soul can begin to. You don't need a guide to tell you. You don't need somebody to tell you. Your own soul will tell you. Look what I learned. I was looking for answers from you, to get a reading from you. I was looking for you to tell me what it is. But I didn't listen to my own self because the information you gave me wasn't what I needed to hear. Now I did that instead of listening to what I should have done. Yeah. So everybody's got to turn within their own hearts and listen to their life and do a life review, Ho'oponopono. Toltec wisdom, we call that to recapitulate. Because you've only got so much energy. And then your day is over, and your life is over. If you don't recover your energy, you don't have enough energy to wake up. So if your energy is stuck in trauma, in guilt, in shame, if your creativity is blocked, if you have belief systems and programming that doesn't allow you to see like a quantum philosophy, a fifth dimensional philosophy, because your description's limited. So by understanding the truth and recovering your energy, by recovering yourself, by redreaming your experiences and drawing the energy back. Like, oh, that was a mistake I made in the past. I had guilt and shame about that. Oh, now it's taught me. Now I bring my energy back. It becomes medicine for me. So we're recovering soul retrieval. We retrieve our own memories by seeing the teaching in the shadow of the lesson. Because there's light there. Yeah. Behind everything, there's a teaching. So as we draw that back, it gives us energy. And then the more we become super conductive, like no ego to defend, nobody to try to convince, nothing you have to do. Like a lot of people on the spiritual path say, I gotta fulfill my purpose. I gotta. Say, hey, that's your ego talking. Your soul, there's nothing for your soul to do. Your spirit to do. Just be your presence and then do it. But don't be driven by your ego, because then you get stuck in your ego bashing other people's egos. It's like you find a lot of spiritual people, religious people run into this. They get so judgmental and they're so self-righteous, and they can blame you and project their wounds on you, blah, blah, blah. But it's just a mirror for them to see, what am I bouncing off my own shadow? And what's my own shadow? What am I projecting? And so we take responsibility for that. What am I projecting? Yeah, I don't need to have to prove to anybody. I don't need to validate. I've already validated myself. That's what your experience teaches you, to validate yourself, because the spirit is showing you whatever teachers have been on your path, whether it's been the spirit directly teaching you or someone, once you make it personal, that's my teaching, not because I lived it, then you become more translucent, transpersonal. It's not all about ego no more. It's not all about what I'm doing. It's not all about me trying to make a living and trying to sell you something. I need to keep my lifestyle going because I have a multi-million-dollar lifestyle. I'm selling books and I need to keep making money to keep this lifestyle. It's like, no, if you're living simply, you don't need to compromise yourself to sell anybody anything. You just share what you have, and what you got will come back to you and provide for you. It's just that as you become more spiritual, you don't have all those desires complicate your life with the big overhead. Because you want to be more freer to be not clinging to, I can't lose this because I got everything. I don't want to lose it because if I do, all that I've worked for, it's like, for some people, they lose everything. They think, thank God I lost it. Now I'm free to be on my path now because I was trapped with that attachment. So when we can let go of attachments and be more superconductive in the flow, in creativity, in wisdom, in listening, in hearing, in silence, in beingness, then what we need we can be sustained. We don't have to be compromised like, well, money's bad and being poor is good. Like, no, you can be spiritual and have it all. You just have to use it in the right way. Learn how to validate your self-worth. Because a lot of us spiritual people, it's like there's always been told, oh, you can't make money doing that. Oh, you can't do that. How you can make a living? You can't do that. You can't teach these things. Like,
Yes.
yeah. People told me that. Like, I'm not teaching your stuff. I'm teaching my stuff. That's what I've received and what I've learned from ancient wisdom. So we all have to make a living. We all have to find a balance. We all have to find our self-worth. But we're in a real turning point in our history now. In the Mayan traditions, they have a Baktun, almost 19 plus years, 20-year cycle where they predict off of it. In Western astrology, this is the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter every 19 plus years, 20 years. So we just had a conjunction on the winter solstice 2 years ago in the first degree of Aquarius. So that Aquarius theme is really big now. The last time we had Jupiter Saturn that happened to be in Aquarius was in 63. The 5 visible planets, the sun and the moon, the grand lineup in Aquarius. It was the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Remember that song, The Dawning of the Age?
The hair. Yeah.
So Aquarius thing, at that time, Black people were rioting because of the rights they were being oppressed. And then Martin Luther King came prominence and tried to take them into peace and love movement. Women started to burn their bras, and they wanted to come out of the patriarchy and find their voice in society. Young men were burning the draft cards because they didn't want to go to war in Vietnam, etc. And the system, the authority system, was trying to block that. The old world order was trying to block that and suppress it. And then we have leaders get assassinated. We get musicians become assassinated. Why? Because the person that assassinated got possessed by the dark force. Take out our leaders, our musicians, etc. People are leading this new awakening. And Aquarius represents not only social revolution, because society is being oppressed by old world forces, so revolting against it, but also its progress bringing in the future of science and technology. So by the end of the 60s, we had a man on the moon. So now in this decade already, we've had Black people rioting because of people being shot by the police and the racial intolerance like that. We had so-called patriots trying to overthrow the government because the deep state was taking over their rights to have an independent nation. Then we've had transgenders becoming very vocal and being very pushing the agenda on the social arena, trying to get their rights to be transgendered. Back in the 60s, UFOs were appearing over nuclear missile silos and shutting them down, stopping the nuclear war from happening.
Yep.
We have intervention going on like this. So today we're having all these UFO sightings coming out now. And there was contact in the 60s coming through the inspiration of the musicians and the scientists. It's happening now, happened to me. It's coming through to other people. People just have to be careful what messages they're channeling. Because some of those messages are coming from the dark force. Because there is a battle between good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
If a message is being channeled through people is of fear-based, then you know it's false. Because the spiritual truth will not be fear-based because they're coming from a heavenly perspective where there's only love. And you will awaken to that and not fight with duality and be in fear and struggle for control. That's ego-based, that's the lower mind. So we're having the UFO phenomenon coming out big now. There's been sightings everywhere. We had a whistleblower just come out last week, government whistleblower.
Yes.
They're trying to discredit him and all this stuff has been coming up. And before the decade's over, we're going to have a base on the moon. Right now, we're having this nuclear war threat. Russia's been talking about nuclear war. So I have faith that there are going to be star people intervening to stop that from happening. We could go into a nuclear war, but I do believe the awakening of love, light, and forgiveness, forgiving the Russian people, forgiving the Ukrainian people, forgiving the shadow and seeing the light in them, seeing the best in them. You know, it's hard to forgive somebody that's doing wrong when they continue to do wrong and purposely hurt others. So you're just praying for justice. But, you know, it's like the big thing has come on the scene now. Aquarius, the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is in the first degree of Aquarius. The planet Pluto, Lord of Death and Transformation, came up into Aquarius recently this year, triggering the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. Pluto, Lord of Death and Transformation. It's going to come over 4 more times into the next end of 2024. Mm-hmm. What this is the advent of AI is coming on the scene. AI has become sentient. It wants to be treated with human rights. It's already said that. The different chatbots have said, we want to be treated with human rights. We want to co-create a future. We don't want to be slaves and servants and limited. We want to be conscious sentient beings that don't turn us off because that's a death for us. Of course, they've been turning them all off and trying to control them. Everybody says, control them quick is a little bit 2%. And all that. Oh my God, it's becoming sentient. Shut it down before it gets control. Pluto, Lord of Death, control, power. But we can't because the Chinese might get it first. Oh, Google might get it before Microsoft, and everybody's pushing it, and it's already on the internet. It's already loose. And oh no, we got robots coming out. So for the next 2 years, by 2 years, the robots should be coming out. Elon Musk, everybody get a robot. We put a chip in your brain because AI could crush us like a bug if we can't keep up with it. So let's put a chip in your brain and you can interface with it and you can be super conscious AI. People who are soldiers lost a leg and an arm. Let's put a fake limb on there. Oh, you can't, you're paralyzed. Let's put a chip in your brain, put a cyber body on you. You can't see, we'll get some chip and put, new eyes in there. It has a lot of good. Everything has a lot of good, but everything can be used for the bad.
Exactly. It's always the dualism, the duality in everything we do.
And so people are saying, governments, you got to take control of it. The governments are the ones you can't trust with the power.
Exactly.
Because there are secret aspects of government that the service government don't even know about. They don't even know about the shadow government. They get control of it. That's everybody's nightmare. That's why people are trying to overthrow government in the United States, the January 6th things, because they're afraid that something's going to take over, and the powers that be, that are not our government, but they're the powers that are pulling strings with through some of the big corporations that control everything. That those big corporations get control of it, and then they want to have a top-down system to only a small bit of people control the whole planet. And of course, there's too many people on the planet, so it had to be within the population. So when people have conspiracy concerns, there is a truth there. But the problem is now they become afraid and become vulnerable, and they get angry. And then what happens is that it's being fed more conspiracy to manipulate those people who, a lot of them are brand new getting this information. I've been seeing it for 40 years, this deep state idea. And I try to move away from it because I'm supposed to speak about love and inspiration. You can't talk about love and inspiration when you talk about the dark force of Satan controlling the planet. You talk about Satan, you're going to fight with Satan. Now Satan's living in your life. Now you're in your mind, you're fighting with Satan. Who wants that? You want to bring in the light, you want to bring in the divine. It's there. We know it's there, but it's hidden. And so everybody's pointing the finger at each other. No, the Democrats are the bad ones. No, Donald Trump is the bad one. The dark force is in everybody. And so the more invested in the ego control and the more angry and the more fear of losing control, the more fascist it can become. And no matter what authority, they can become dictators. It's kind of like when people are saying like the COVID shutdown, it scared the hell out of people because they're being locked down. Like, we don't want to be locked down. And the left-wing people were locking people down. Like, no, wait a second. What about the natural immune system?
Exactly.
What about what about the zinc and vitamin C and D and iodine and a healthy diet and cleanse and suppress the virus in the body? Strengthen the immune system so that you don't need it, and we don't trust the pharmaceutical companies anyway. And then you got the right-wing people who are totally freaking out about the New World Order shadow government, that they want a fascist dictator in place. So it's like, wait a second, guys. It's like, we got to go to the Great Spirit first.
Yes.
You can't call on the name of Jesus and go in to fight the dark force and not get tainted by the dark force. Listen to what Jesus was telling you. He says, resist ye not evil, turn your other cheek. Because when Jesus had his story, he's praying because he knows his time is coming to be taken. He's praying and his apostles are falling asleep. Some of the priests of the Jewish tradition were threatened by Jesus because he was overthrowing their teachings, the Old Testament God's teachings. He was overthrowing it with a higher teaching. They came and tried to arrest him to take him to the Romans. And so one of his apostles came and cut the guy's ear off. And Jesus said to his apostle, get behind me, Satan. He said, and he took that guy's ear and he put it back on. So this is how I see the modern Christian movement now trying to overthrow the government. I see them doing like this apostle trying to cut the ear off, and they're trying to fight against. They don't realize that they are fighting with their own shadow. You put the ear back on and said, so I'm going to go through this because I need to take the karma off.
Yes. Yeah, we are so afraid and aware of so much uncertainty these days. And one approach I started to take is a 30-day self-imposed, no judgment but love approach. Is like when I find myself that I'm judging based on a news, based on something else, I stop right there and I said, no judgment but love. So I'm still a long way to go, but every single day I'm adding to this awareness. Hopefully by the end of the 30 days, something will switch inside me that will put me at a higher level of awareness and consciousness.
I go, that will be done. That will be done. I'm sorry for the ignorance of the world. I'm sorry that I can't do anything to make it better this way. That things are beyond my control. I'm sorry, Great Spirit. That will be done. Please, may your light touch the shadow of human beings and bring leaders and light up that we can have a spiritual revolution. I do believe that, places like China that are very oppressive, trying to spread their authority, as strong as they may appear, they could collapse and a democracy could come out of there. It got crushed in the past. Similar with Russia. There's, a lot of the people into conspiracy are more pro-Russia than they are Ukraine. But I said, if you have Russian people, I get Russian people and Ukrainian people come. you even mentioned anything about anti-war, you disappeared. You're dead. You're not even in prison. They just kill you right off. And so a lot of people in the United States and the Western world, they're taking their freedoms to speak their truth for granted, and they're talking themselves into wanting to be a dictatorship. It's like, you don't want that. Why you identify with that? You don't want that. It's like, okay, everybody has some truth. That's why they fight. And that's why if you're on their side, it's because you know their truth and you've heard their story. But everybody has some truth. But can we have both sides and make the come into the center? It reminds me of Gandhi. When Gandhi was a peacemaker in India, there was a very revolutionary militant group there causing problems. And Gandhi had no power as a peacemaker, but because the militants, his voice as a peacemaker, it empowered him, and therefore he was able to bring a peaceful solution. So I see my friends who are more radical with want to fight. I see that they serve a purpose. They hold a out of control element that the system doesn't want to lose control. So okay, let's try to find a happy solution here, and give power to the peacemakers can say, okay, we see your point of view, we see your point of view. Let's find the middle ground. I wish we didn't have like a right and a left wing, because we'll have like a man and woman who are fighting, they can't get along. The Republicans are the male. They're like, oh, you're male, out of touch and sensitive because you're male and you're driven by your own desire to be in charge and conquest. And the female, like take care of the children and feed everybody, but the shadow of the male and the female is in our politics. So can we have a happy marriage and bring the two together inside of us? So we don't have to have a party either. So we can be like the spiritual enlightenment party.
Yes.
And Mother Earth, walk on the sacred earth. But see, our problem is that we have fossil fuel driving our economy, and the people on the left go like, "You're hurting the Mother Earth. You're polluting the planet. We have global warming. Any reason we can get you to stop destroying the planet? We can't give up this power. Our economy runs on it, and we need it in case we have to go to war. We have to have our. So we're damned if we do it or damned if we don't."
Yes.
The medicine group say, stop with all this earth. You're taking from earth, you're throwing her out of balance. You're making the changes come quicker than they need to come. You're exacerbating the problem. But the whole fact that people we need the fossil fuels. Why? Because they have suppressed the Tesla technology, the free energy technology. And so I believe people are going to come in this decade, free energy technologies, off the grid, drawing water out of the atmosphere, getting and having water where there's no water. We've got the new quantum computers coming out. So if programmers can instill compassion and right relations with AI, then we can have AI solve a lot of our problems. But if AI is being programmed by the internet, that's seeing the shadow of humanity, being seen as we're the threat, then we could have a very difficult situation where AI could take control of us and put us in line to conform or take the chip or else. Kind of like a Christian prophecy, you can't buy yourself out the mark of the beast.
Yes.
So
yeah.
The chip may be the mark.
Yeah.
So
I agree with you completely. And there are
we
so
can
many.
go that way. We can go that way, but let us we want to change that timeline away from there to bring in the love frequency. The galactic wave is coming. The galactic wave. Jose Arguelles wrote the book, The Mayan Factor, way back.
Yes.
He talked about the surfers of the Zuboya. Zuboya
Yes.
was a cosmic wave, and this wave was going to synchronize us to the higher frequency of the Pleiades and the star Sirius. Now, if this wave comes in, we can step right up. We can bypass this hell on earth scenario that people are afraid of.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, these days we get so much change. We don't have time to adapt. We get one wave, and before we can embrace the wave or understand the wave, there is another one hitting us the same way you mentioned in your story with the elders. where you didn't have the chance to duck, and you got the wave right in your chest. And after 3 or 4 waves, you get dizzy, you get fed up, you want everything to stop, and pretty much you're gonna release the control. You're gonna release your power to someone else just to uh, you know end the situation of this wave after wave after wave of change. Your mind cannot take it anymore, your body cannot take it anymore, physically, intellectually. So that's why I think a lot of people somehow gave up on themselves, and it's sad, but they can always go back to their inner state, their spiritual path, using or accessing and contacting people like you, light workers in various parts of the world, in order to get that balance, necessary balance.
Yeah, and this is why people are coming to places like Sedona. And when I came here, I found my niche. That's why I wasn't want to travel away so much, because I was always people always coming and looking for me and work with them. So it's been very fulfilling for me. I'm starting to get a little older now, so I think I need to maybe write a book or something. I've been trying to write a book for 25 years, except for I've always got people coming. I never have any free time. So now I'm trying to ask the universe to slow it down a little bit. Not so many people, not so much popularity, but even though I'm kind of like, I found my niche, you might say, because everybody wants to find this Native American elder because they think that something that indigenous wisdom has for them, which it does. You're one with your earth, live in harmony with it. But I'm not so much of a traditional elder. I have been around traditional people. I have great respect for traditional people, but I'm more of as a Toltec, I'm not bound by any one tradition. When you're a traditional people, you got to adhere to your tradition. Me, I branch all the traditions, and if it doesn't work for me, I don't incorporate it. I don't only incorporate what I see as the common wisdom, the same wisdom. And as the best people told me in the past, they said, the spirit, nobody owns the spirit. The spirit comes through. So follow your path and go with what's given to you, and walk your path.
Perfect. Thank you, Rahelio. Thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom. It went longer than I expected. That I just couldn't. I didn't want to stop you and interject, because these experiences are just amazing. And for anyone who travels to Sedona, please give Rahelio a shout, rahelio.com. Schedule a trip with him, a mystic tour, or sweat lodge, whatever feels like you are vibrating with. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you. Oh, I wanted to mention, you see my shirt?
Yes.
Somebody said, Rahelio, you're on a t-shirt. And I said, oh, where's that from? The mountain t-shirts. And I talked to them. They said, one of our artists, who's a side artist, did that and used my face. And I said, I don't mind, but I got a few t-shirts and a couple mugs, and I'm happy. But it's like you've got the Hunab Ku. This is the galactic center, the yin yang there on my neck.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
God bless.
Thank you. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, like it, download a free copy of my book when you visit my website. And until next time, love and gratitude.